It's the session. I'm your host, Michelle Nicole Charles, and today we have the co-founder of We Are Onyx, Delali, in the building. What's up?
Hey.
So basically, We Are Onyx, for you guys who don't know, it's a box with a whole bunch of goodies in it.
This particular box is called Ladies First because it's in celebration of International Women's Day. And we consider it a whole month worth of celebration. So all the brands inside this box are actually founded by women or run by women. So we've been really, really lucky to be able to partner with all of them to bring you these amazing brands. And
yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, how did you even come up with this concept? Like, how did you even know? Like, all right, let me put this together because I know women of color need this.
You know, it's funny because that's not at all where my head was. It was it came from a semi-selfish place. It was like, I need this. But you know, what's really interesting is I was working a very, very stressful corporate job in entertainment. And I was working for a huge talent agency, absolutely incredible place, you know, where we were dealing with A-list talent. And I'm talking A-list, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts. Those were the clients that I worked with directly. And it was, oddly enough, it was still a pretty corporate environment. So it was like, don't get there at 8:59. Don't get there at 9:01. You need to get there at 9. Like, that's the time. And that very quickly, you know, took control of my morning routine. Like, I couldn't do my hair in the morning. No, I needed to have braids because they were always done. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so my hair was braided for a really long time, you know, the entire time that I was working there. So, of course, we go through that thing where we take it down and then we get it rebraided and you show up on Monday like nothing ever happened, right? So, yeah, not real life. So, and the hairdresser who was supposed to wash my hair and blow it out and all that jazz on Saturday canceled at the last minute. Like, as I was getting into the car, I got a call from the salon. Oh, she got a flat. She can't come in. I was like, what about me, though?
So what did you do?
So I immediately started calling all of my girlfriends because I'd been going to this person for years. I didn't know anybody else. And there was no other Black stylist at that salon. So there was no one else I could like easily, you know, go to. So I called every one of my girlfriends. I spent the whole day on the phone like, can you fit me in? Is there something you can do? Like, nobody. Because by 10 a.m. on Saturday, if you don't have an appointment, you're not getting one. Like, everybody knows this. So at like 9 p.m., it really hit me. Wow, I'm going to have to wash this hair myself? Cool. I don't know how to do that. And that was the moment when I realized I don't know how to do this. What really hit me after this whole event was I didn't know the terminology, so I didn't know what to ask for. When I did figure out what to ask for, I didn't have the products, and I didn't know where to get them. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
So very quickly, I could see a very clear problem that was in need of a solution.
Right.
But I wasn't even thinking in that direction at that time, right? So anyway, I eventually figure out how to get this hair done and blown out and like whatever. And the next morning I had committed actually before my hair appointment to go to brunch with my then boyfriend, now fiance, and a former classmate of his. And so we're heading out. She's driving. He's in the front seat. I'm in the back seat. I think it's only the second time I had, you know, really hung out with her. And I'm practically asleep in the backseat of this car because I'd gone to bed at like 2:00 in the morning doing this hair. And he knew why I had been like so tired, but she didn't know. And he was like, you should tell her because it's kind of rude. Like, you're not making me look good right now. I was like, okay. So how can someone like me, super busy, figure out how to do these things, what products to use, where to get them from? Like, it would be amazing if there was a place that would just help you figure all that out. That's what I said. And I just kind of like, you know, went back to sleep. And then she literally whips around and she says, I have an amazing, you know, business idea to go along with that. But if I tell you about it, we have to do it together. And that's essentially where Onyx came from. So we spent the entire brunch talking about my hair, essentially. And eventually it turned into like after work, after hours on the weekends, we were talking, we were strategizing, blah, blah, blah. And that went on for about 6-7 months. Until finally, you know, we got an investor on board who really believed in us. And it came to a point where I had to take a step forward into this new path because this was not part of the plan at all. And I did. And that's where it all started.
Were you scared to quit your stability, knowing that you know how much money you're going to make every week, to jump into something that you don't know if it's going to work or not?
I was terrified. And the interesting thing about it, I was terrified, but I knew that this is one of the biggest decisions in my life, and I wanted to make it myself. So I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my sister. I didn't tell anybody. I wanted to decide that I was either going to do this thing or I was not going to do it. And whatever choice I made was going to be my choice, for better or for worse. I come from an immigrant family. I'm not from the United States. I was born in Ghana and lived, all over the world before I moved here. But, African parents, there are 4 jobs.
Okay, you got to be a doctor,
an attorney. What else you got? Accountant, engineer. That's it.
Boom, yeah.
Some version of doctor, nurse is cool. Any of that. Right. But there are 4 jobs on this planet.
That's how Caribbean parents are too.
That's
so I know all about it.
You know what I mean? So I knew that, I didn't know, but I was worried that the knee-jerk reaction from them was going to be, no. Finish this thing first and do it on the side, or something like that. And there was no option for that. This was a decision. I didn't even fully recognize that it was going to be a startup. I was getting into the world of being a founder. I hadn't really put all that together and what that really meant ultimately. But I did know that this was a very big decision and I had to make it on my own. So I made the decision. I put in my 2 weeks. Then I told my parents and they were like, okay, but you're still going to law school, right? And I was like, yeah, no. My mom's still hanging on to that law school thing. She's praying every night. But yeah, then, I took off and I went for it. And, I was really lucky because the person I was working for at the time, he had previously been the chairman of Universal Pictures. He's a huge deal, huge producer, incredibly talented. He had been essentially my idol before I even realized that this was the person who was behind all these movies that I was totally in love with. And I watched him build a company and I helped him build a company. After Universal, he built another production company. And I was there when we didn't have an office. I was there when we moved into our first place. I was there when we were picking the furniture, and I was watching that and I was watching how he built his team and how he related to people. So I didn't even realize that I was already on this journey, on this path.
You were in school. You were
exactly
learning.
Before, I essentially manifested my next opportunity. So ultimately, I look back on it and I realize I was guided through this entire thing. This wasn't necessarily a choice. It was presented to me and I accepted it. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So, so making that decision was huge and it was all me. I wanted to own that and know that it was totally my choice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you said you ended up getting an investor. How did you go about getting that? Did you put it together like a deck or...
Yeah.
Because, some people have ideas, just don't know, they don't have the funds to get started.
Absolutely. And that's totally understandable. You have to know what you're talking about, ultimately. That's what an investor wants to see. And that is technically represented in a couple different ways. Financial projections, a really strong, solid business plan that is backed up by research, with a bibliography and references.
Oh, that's
and
back to school.
No, seriously, it's like a project. It's a real thing. And you have to do it. And you also ultimately have to do it for yourself because you might have a great idea, but you haven't necessarily thought through all the way to the end of it. How do I make money? When do I start making money? Like all those types of things will come out in your business plan because ultimately you have to turn all of these ideas in your mind into a single document that you send to someone who, if you weren't there, could fully understand what you're talking about just by looking at that thing. So we definitely did that. We created a business plan. We did financial projections. We did projections on how many employees we would need, how quickly we could scale, when we would start making money, where we could operate, all of it. Because we were also coming from, So my background is film finance, and my partner's background was also film finance. So we were coming from a very analytical kind of a place.
Which is amazing.
You know what I mean?
That was a plus for you guys.
It was a plus.
Yes.
So we were coming from this analytical place, and we were presenting it to someone who worked in film finance. So we were kind of all mentally on the same page.
That's amazing.
And kind of knew what we would be looking for, where we recognize that he's going to be vetting this idea. It has to be rock solid.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we definitely came with a strong business plan and a whole strategy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. What challenges did you face while you were putting everything together and to get everything started? Or challenges that you face while you're in the business currently?
Oh, my gosh. So at the beginning, in terms of starting, it was, what are we doing? What is this again? Just trying to suss it out and making a clear plan about what it is. Because I say to you, oh, wouldn't it be nice if there was this place? That sounds super vague. You can be thinking something completely different from what I'm thinking in terms of what that actually looks like. So synthesizing that down into okay, this is what it is. This is what we do. That was the most important thing first, because you start with these huge, epic ideas. We could do this, we could do that. But then you realize, okay, we need to start with something basic that does a thing, generates money, gets our name out there, gets people on board. And then you can do the festivals, and then you can do events and parties, and then you can, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, who's going to help us? We have no money. And we were in advance of getting our first round of funding, we had no money. So we were working with a lot of interns. We were asking a lot of favors. We were, tapping into your network became the go-to word, network, because there are people out there who do amazing things. And, it's as much your responsibility to get them on board with your idea as it is ultimately your customers. So if you can't convince this person to make you a logo real quick for a third of the cost, you're not going to be able to get a customer to, get on board every single month to give you their money. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where we started from. So trying to go through our networks and figure out, okay, who do we know? How can we pool these resources? How can we get these people on board? Eventually we figured that out, and we were able to partner, with extraordinarily talented people who just believed in us or liked us as people or whatever, So that was kind of what the beginning looked like. And then it was really, for me, it was this mental shift. I remember on the very first day when I officially was full-time on Onyx, and we were, our investor, our financier, had allowed us to work out of his office. And so I had an office inside of his office. And I remember I put my laptop down and I sat in the chair and I was like, okay, so how do the emails work? Is somebody going to email me? Am I going to email somebody? What? How does this work? You know what I mean? Because you're going from this mindset of you're an employee, there's a job, you do these 10 things every day, to this totally wide open space where every moment is totally yours. You can waste it if you want. You can make the best out of it if you want. Go, And that was mentally an interesting transition for me, from being okay, I'm not on the back foot right now. I need to be on my toes. I need to send out the emails. I need to send out pitches. I need to, you know what I mean? Until it gets to a place where it starts to go back and forth.
Right.
So that was an interesting mental shift for me. Hiring employees, I'd never done that before. I hadn't been a manager before. That was new and interesting and terrifying. We made some great choices. We made bad ones here and there.
Yeah, of course.
And that was cool, managing people. But also, one of the main things that struck me, that is still on my mind, that makes me recognize that I am responsible to my team. I work for them as much as they work for me, is that they rely on me for their livelihood. If I don't do my job, they don't get a paycheck. They can't pay their bills. And that's real. That is real life. And that is a real responsibility. And when you go from just being an employee and waiting for your check and everything's on time, to being the boss and being responsible for those checks and responsible for being on time, that was a very different place. And so I would definitely say that one of my main challenges at the beginning of this process is I didn't realize how badly I needed a mentor. I had no idea how badly I needed guidance, because a lot of mistakes that were made could have been avoided. Somebody else has been like, no, that I can see exactly where that's going. Don't do that. You know what I mean? But at the time you're like, oh, mentor, yeah, we'll get one. That's cool. Or advisory board, whatever. But you don't really realize that you need a mentor for so many more things, not just the technical, okay, what do I do now? What happens next? Blah, blah, blah. But also, I need to cry. Will you just listen to me? I'm freaking out. I'm stressed. This thing didn't work. What do I do now? All that kind of stuff. We didn't have, we weren't looking to anybody else. We were just looking to each other. And in a lot of ways that put a lot of pressure on us individually. So, what's really interesting about this whole thing, building this company, and ultimately the part of it that one of the things that I love so much about it is being able to share all the things that I have learned over time, because this is priceless advice in the grand scheme of things. And I just want to tell anybody and everybody that it is hard to start a business. It is hard. There's no world in which it is easy. Even the Walmarts of the world started somewhere in someone's kitchen with not enough money and nobody willing to help. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't ever walk into starting a company thinking it's going to be easy breezy and it's all just about, starting an Instagram account is going to be great. Like,
There's more to that.
There's a little bit more, just a smidge. Right. You know what I mean? But I would definitely say that, boy, having a mentor would have been great. I have several mentors now, and it's a lesson I've learned now. But I think it would have been great to have done that.
Here's
right
the thing,
from the
though. How do you find a mentor?
I think it's a little bit of a two-way street. I think it's about being open. There is, unfortunately, a little bit of there's this like smoke and mirrors thing that happens a little bit in startup world, where people want to present themselves as killing it. Oh, we're killing it. Everything's so great. We're killing it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, honey.
And in reality, you're like shivering under your desk. You know what I mean? And I think that you actually might lose out on opportunities by presenting yourself as flawless, as opposed to presenting yourself as, you know what, I'm doing this thing. I'm extremely passionate about it. I know a lot about these things, but I don't know everything. The minute you admit you don't know everything, that's how you find your team. That's how you build the right team. That's how you find your mentors. Nobody wants to mentor somebody who knows everything. Like, what am I going to tell you then? You know what I mean? But being open, just being emotionally open is going to be extremely important. Getting out there and networking. I know it's like the most annoying word on the planet at this point, but that's how business gets done.
Absolutely. I agree.
Period.
100%.
That's how business gets done. So getting out there, networking, and getting past yourself. Like, I am not someone who easily walks into a cocktail party and is just like smoozing around. Hey, girl. Like, no. I'm like, oh my God, did they even remember me? You know what I mean? That's like my default mode. So I'm always trying to be like, okay, I'm going to walk in here. It's going to be great, And I'm trying to present a little bit more like, okay, I can do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's not like I walk in there being like, oh, I'm everything. No, I walk in there being like, who are you? I would love to get to know you. Asking people to coffee, being genuine about it. Recognizing that other people's time is valuable. You're never going to get anything for free. At minimum, it's going to cost you a coffee. Be prepared for that and honor that. You know what I mean? Because if you let other people know that their time is valuable, also, they are much more likely to give it to you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So networking, getting out there, overcoming any of your insecurities about public speaking or, just trying to connect with people and also understanding that they're not flawless either. They have lots to learn too. So they might actually learn things from you.
Right.
But yeah, putting it out there and also just telling people, hey, I don't know a lot about packaging design. Do you know somebody who I could talk to? Asking for help. asking for help.
You got to put that pride
Very
aside.
Important. Yes. There is no pride. There is no pride when you start a business because it's a request. Ultimately, every single business is a request. I hope that you like my product. I hope you buy it. I hope you come back and buy it again. It's a request. You're begging all the time. That's what it is. So there's no opportunity for pride because something that's hot right now is like nothing tomorrow. You know what I mean? The world moves really fast. So there's no room to waste time being prideful or thinking you've got it all figured out. You don't. Anything can change. Anything can change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. I got lost in like everything that you were saying because it's just so real. You know, a lot of people don't like to ask for help and they become very prideful and then they wonder why they don't grow.
Exactly.
You know? And it's also important to have a team. How did you go about selecting your team? Was it through like intuition or people referring people? How did you know, all right, this is the right fit for my company?
It was a mix of referring. It was a mix of like, just putting it out there, looking on Monster, looking on, any of those websites and things like that. But it was also very much about asking for referrals because we were looking for a very specific group of people. You know what I mean? There was no poach them from Google kind of scenario, There was no other hub that you were going to be able to pull these people from. We were looking for very specific types of people and also people who understood the world of startup because that's a whole other life. Even as an employee, it's a whole other life. And you need people who are prepared for that, understand what it takes. So it's a very specific type of person you're looking for.
Right.
So if you find someone who's giving you those vibes, you hope that they keep similar company.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you find someone who's hustling, who's grinding, who's on it, who's, focused on their dreams and like chasing after their stuff. And, every moment is an opportunity to win and all those types of, behaviors. And then you say, hey, are you available? Oh, you're not. Okay, cool. What about somebody else?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And doing that a lot as well. A lot. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of our employees came from was kind of through that kind of thing. But then, of course, we also, just put job specs out there and interviewed people.
How did you overcome, any self-doubt while you were in the process or overcome any challenges that just probably like threw you off?
So I think we were really, really lucky in that we had a lot of wins. We had a lot of wins. And I tried to focus a lot on all the small wins, however tiny they may be. You know what I mean? We had a lot of challenges for sure, but I tried to focus on the wins to help me, see through the mist when it got particularly foggy and you're like, this is not working. That was really helpful. But also, I realized that at some point, I needed to make sure that I was all right. Because that was the only way I was going to be able to find the energy to get over challenges. That was the only way. And I learned that the hard way, definitely, for sure. I had never been somebody who really exercised very much or like I never drank enough water. I wasn't even thinking about water. Sleep was like, whatever, none of these things were of any real importance to me, right? I was just going. One day I woke up with a stiff neck. It wasn't too bad. It was just a little bit annoying, whatever. I went to work and typing all day long. The next morning I wake up, I couldn't look to the right at all. Like my head was like this, like my chin was over my left shoulder and my left arm was like up across my body. And that was the only comfortable position I could be in. I couldn't lift myself out of bed. I couldn't look to the right at all. Like I was frozen. I was frozen in place. And my fiance had to take me to a specialist like 2 hours out of LA who spent, no joke, 6 hours massaging me enough to be able to give me an adjustment. And when the whole ordeal was over, he said, do you realize what happened? And I said, oh, well, I had this stiff neck, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you dislocated your rib. And I was like, what? wait, what? And he's like, your stress levels are out of control. You were so stressed that your muscles were so tight that they literally pulled your rib out of place. That's the reason why your left arm was like this. That's the reason why your chin was like this. Whatever it is you're doing, you need to reassess your whole life. This is literally what this doctor said to me. And I was just stunned. I was stunned.
I'm stunned.
I had heard what stress could do.
Right.
I had never heard what stress could do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't listening.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I couldn't not listen. I was put in a position where I had to listen. I had to address it. And so one of the things that is now becoming a little bit more of a conversation, now people are bringing it up a little bit more, but I continuously harp on it because this is the root of everything, of absolutely everything, is you are the most important company you will ever build. You have to be focused to some degree on yourself. You have to make time to sleep. You have to make time to eat. You have to drink a lot of water. You have to go on vacation. You have to turn your phone on. You have to do these things because if you're broken, you can't help anybody. You can't build this empire that you aspire to build. And I think that was one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned through this entire process. Is that I need to make sure the foundation is strong, otherwise I can't build anything on it, you know? And that was a huge lesson that I learned. And one of the ways that I continuously find time to think about the wins, because that's part of my stress management. Maybe this project didn't work, but remember last month when we made $100,000? Boom, that was amazing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how I continuously try to reflect on the good things that have happened and the wonderful things that have happened despite the challenges, because the challenges are always going to come. I'm sure there's something burning right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's always something,
right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
You're never going to be in a situation where there isn't something going on. You just need to be prepared as you can be. And the easiest place to start is within yourself. Yeah.
You are one wise lady. Wow, that was so good. I'm so mad that the time's up.
Oh my God, the time is up.
Yes.
What? That's crazy. That was fast.
Yes, it was. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for dropping your gems. Where can we find your company on social media? Online?
Yeah, so on Instagram, we are at We Are Onyx. And it's the same across the board. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with Twitter, same thing with Pinterest. The website is weareonyx.com. And like I said, we have the monthly beauty subscription, but we also have an e-commerce store. So you can go and, find individual products and buy things. I'm really hyper focused on curating a box that's about discovery. So you're going to see a lot of brands you've never even heard of before. And that's a lot of fun, both in the box and in the shop. Yeah. We out here.
Yes, I love it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope that you guys gained so much knowledge as much as I did, because I really enjoyed this a lot. This interview was so good. Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
I feel like it was for me. Make sure you guys follow It's a Session at its_the_session on IG, Twitter. Check out the website, itsasession.com, and feel free to follow me as well, Michelle Nicole, MICHE11E NICOLE. Love you guys. All right.